Hey y'all, so we are back and this is Poli-Side-Eye with my co-host Jared. It's been a while. Update them on what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so I'm just about done with my dissertation, so I should be no longer a PhD candidate, but I will officially be a doctor within the next few months or so. So I'm at the finish line.
It feels like it's been forever. Like, how long has this process been? This journey?
I've been working on my PhD since 2016, fall of 2016, so almost 6 years.
Oh, even during the pandemic, right?
During a Panasonic, I was still having the chip away. So
And how's teaching going?
teaching's doing well. I have a really good group of students. They're very hungry for knowledge, and I can see them pushing the boundaries of what they thought they knew or what they thought that they could know. And so it's been really rewarding. I lucked out. I had a really good group of students.
Well, let's get into this episode. The topic of today's Poli-Side-Eye is the Supreme Court nomination. Lord have mercy. I'm looking at my notes. I put in Ketanji and it says ketamine. I didn't even realize that. Anyway, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, I've never heard of her until she was nominated. So, who is the Supreme Court judge that she is potentially replacing?
I'm just going to call her KBJ because it's just easier.
Great. All right.
So she's replacing Stephen Breyer, who was appointed by Bill Clinton. And so Breyer has been one of the more liberal justices. So yeah, so she's not gonna change the dynamics in the court. In other words, she's not gonna change the way that the numbers are split. Like it's still gonna be a 6-3 conservative to liberal majority. So from that standpoint, like her appointment is still important, but for different reasons, not like ideologically that important, because she's just going to be replacing somebody who is probably pretty similar to her in a number of respects. And so, yeah, so that's what she's replacing. So Biden campaigned that if he had the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice, he would appoint a Black woman. So that's what he's done. I'm not a legal expert, so I can't really speak that much to her jurisprudence, but from what I understand, like she's been relatively progressive I say relatively because she's still in the legal system. Legal system is in many ways really reactionary. So how much you could expect the law to be progressive is kind of, we shouldn't expect that much out of the law. But given all of that, seems as though she is more progressive than most of the other people in the court.
What state does she represent?
What state does she represent? That's a good question, actually. Hold on. I think she's in DC. Yeah. So right now she's a United States Court of Appeals. She's on the United States Court of Appeals for DC, for the DC circuit. So yeah, I was right.
She looks like she's like maybe late 40s, early 50s, because Black don't crack. So she'll be on the panel for a very long time.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, people have been getting appointed younger and younger over the past few decades. I think Amy Coney Barrett was 47, 46. So she was pretty young. I think Kavanaugh was pretty young as well, maybe around the same age, 50, give or take. So that's been about the age at which people have been getting appointed, that kind of late 40s, early 50s range.
What do you think about, her race being a factor? Like with Biden saying, well, it's going to be a Black woman. Is it a big deal if it's just like, oh, we need a Black woman on the panel?
So do I think it's a problem that he explicitly said that he wanted to appoint a Black woman to the court? Not necessarily. I mean, it's no different than what other people have done. So someone called attention to the fact, for instance, that when Reagan became president, he publicly avowed that he was going to appoint a woman to the court, which he did, Sandra Day O'Connor. So it's not as though like Biden is the first political figure that has explicitly said that he is going to appoint someone based on, at least with heavy consideration of their demographic background. I do think, of course, it's not just enough that he appointed a Black woman, but also I think it's important to consider, again, her jurisprudence, like her political background and all of those other things as well. As much as people try to act like the court is like some objective, neutral, but it's not. Like it's a political institution. people have political positions. And so, it's not just enough. I mean, there was another woman, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, but she was a judge, and I believe in South Carolina. Rumor was that she was being considered for the post before KBJ was announced. And if you looked at some of the things that she had ruled on, she was pretty aggressive towards like unions, had a pretty strong pro-business tilt. And so again, like I think when her name was being circulated, it raised the question of like, okay, is it just enough to have a Black woman, or do we also want a Black woman who has at least some progressive bona fides? And so it seems as though KBJ, unlike the other woman whose name I can't remember, is at least somewhat progressive on the things that she has, some of the legal decisions and that she's been involved in.
Can you explain the process, like the nomination process in brief?
I mean, it's pretty standard. President nominates somebody and the Senate votes. It's just the Senate. So the House doesn't have a vote when it comes to the Supreme Court. It's just a Senate vote. So it used to be the case that you needed a 60 vote majority to confirm a Supreme Court pick. But if you remember, they dropped, they being the Senate, the threshold to 50 votes to confirm the pick. So now you only need a simple majority.
What were your thoughts on, I guess, the actual process of getting KBJ through, like her being interviewed? Because I know a lot of people were upset, hearing people like, I think Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and, other white honkies.
I mean, I don't watch all that shit because it's just theater. Like that stuff is not they don't hold these hearings because they're legitimately trying to understand her jurisprudence and her legal mind and how she might decide an important. They don't care about any of that. Yes, what the Republican Party did was egregious in many respects, but I mean, both parties used this as an opportunity to rile up their base. Like Democrats did the same thing with Amy Coney Barrett, like essentially calling her a whack job and saying she wasn't suited for the court, and using that to generate fundraising among like their voting base and stuff. And so I think when people are just saying, oh, well, the Republican Party wasn't giving her a fair shot and they didn't have good intentions. I'm like, they never have good intentions. Like, that's beside the point. Like, they don't care about any of the material questions. Like, they're just trying to score points so they can have something to send to Fox News, some soundbite that'll get people riled up. Like, I mean, that's what it's really about. And so when people, like I saw somebody yesterday who was like, wrote this op-ed talking about how, because I don't know if you saw, Mitch McConnell tweeted and released a press release saying that even though he went into this with an open mind, he can in good faith vote to confirm KBJ because he came up with some half-ass reason. But the point was that was kind of beside the point. He was never going to vote to confirm her. Like, it doesn't matter what she said. Like, the fact that she was being appointed by a Democratic president was enough. So then in this op-ed, they were like, oh, this is an example of like racism, the intersection of racism and sexism and all these other things. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, Mitch McConnell already told y'all in 2008 what the Republican Party was about, which was to essentially make sure nothing ever gets done. And he's been steadfast in that belief for the last almost 2 decades, and people are still sitting here trying to reason through it. I'm like, this man don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't matter who they would have nominated. They could have nominated a white man and the same thing would have happened. Now, would they have been as aggressively anti-Black? Probably not, because that's how, we live in an anti-Black country. Like, that's just how people operate. But it wouldn't have changed the ultimate like outcome, which is that as long as Biden appointed somebody who was viewed as being sympathetic to Democratic aims, nobody on the Republican side was going to support her.
We live in an anti-Black country. You better speak on it.
I mean, it's not like, it shouldn't even be controversial at this point. Like, it's just, it is what it is.
Also, my hate for Mitch McConnell, like, he's 80 years old. Nobody had any banana pills or, like, I don't know, sneeze on him, something. Like, I just, why is this man still in Congress? And I'll even give it to Nancy Pelosi too. Why is she still in Congress as well? Like, pass the baton, or at least one of y'all go to hell. You know what I'm talking about. I want to go into depth on that, but I don't want to get my page shut down. But you did mention that the whole process is political theater to you.
It is. I mean, again, that shouldn't even be remotely controversial. How many of these sound bites that we've seen have actually discussed in some meaningful way, and underscoring in meaningful way, any of the things that she has done in her legal career? Like, it's none of that. They're asking her dumb shit that's gonna be good for some negative ad that they'll run against Biden. They, being the Republicans, will run against Biden in the fall. And so I just think that we have to, don't take the bait. Like, I saw so many people taking the bait this week, and that's exactly what the right wants. They want you to take the bait. And for me, I don't take the bait and engage with them because they don't, nothing that they do is about any type of serious material politics. It's all about, what can we say? What type of material can we generate to get the people who watch us on Fox News and share this on Facebook and all of these other echo chamber-esque things? What can we say to like give fodder to them? Like, that's all it's about. And so I just feel like people who consider themselves quote unquote progressive, you have to have some discernment to understand what the right is about and what they've been about. And they don't care about Black women. They don't care about any, like, they just care about one thing, which is maintaining their power. And they're going to do whatever what requires to do that. And it doesn't matter if you try to make them out to be evil or you try to make them out to be all these other things. Like, they don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. And so I want people to stop taking the bait and falling for the okie doke. Like, they don't care.
It's a dose of realism there.
We need to talk about how Black liberals in particular have turned KBJ into a meme, because we need to have that conversation. I don't know if you've seen, but there's been all of these posts talking about how there was one, it was like, you remember when Cory Booker gave that obviously rehearsed speech that brought KBJ to tears. And so someone screenshotted a picture of her with the one tear, and they were like, 400 years. This is what Black people, yeah, exactly. The face you just made, that top, it was just like, and then I saw someone else on Facebook. Let me see if I can pull it up, because I was like, this is foolish.
It's funny because I was about to ask you about the Cory Booker situation, like, because it was very popular on Twitter, and I just saw it like tweet after tweet after tweet, the clip. I thought it was nice, but it was really Disney-fied. I was just like, is the music gonna come in like as she's crying and stuff like that? But we're cynics, so I don't know. Like, some people, they're optimistic and they're just thinking, oh, this is so nice.
Okay, none of this should be about any of that. Like, we should be talking about, again, her jurisprudence. What has she done in her legal career? I get what he was trying to do. Like, he was trying to essentially circle the wagons around her and create this moment of like racial connectivity or something. But it was so obviously rehearsed. So you know how I feel about Cory Booker. Like, he has this complex where he is so beside himself that he'll never be Obama. And every time he has the chance to be in front of the camera, he tries to make this the opportunity for him to show that he can be Obama, but he doesn't have the range. I'm just like, I just don't see it. But anyway, so I saw on Facebook, it's true. Anyway, so I saw someone post on Facebook, they were like, if you're a Black woman in corporate America, academia, entertainment, heck, working at McDonald's, notice the aside there, 10 times out of 10, you've had a KBJ experience at least once in your life. I'm exhausted for us, for her, and for us. We watched our lives play out on TV all week, and the survey says we are not crazy. These folks try to talk to us and play us like we're stupid, and we just have to grin and bear it. Meanwhile, we hold more degrees and credentials than the ones questioning our ideas, value, experience, and worth. It's tiring. Take a deep breath and exhale, sisters. We are qualified and we are more than enough. I see you, queens. So many people are living out their own frustrations through KBJ. And so what does it mean that so many people will see this experience and take this as like the evidence of some type of structural injustices that all Black people, in particular in this case, Black women, face. Now, do I think that KBJ was heavily scrutinized to the point to where it was obviously not in good faith? Absolutely. Do I also think that these Senate confirmation hearings, I should say, do I believe that they're theater, vapid, and meaningless? Absolutely. Why are we looking to her as the way to interpret and understand the experiences of Black women in America? Like, it's not a one-to-one situation. And I just don't know why you can't. What is this doing? Like, why are people so emotionally invested in this way? I don't get it. I've been trying to make sense of it. And so honestly, in trying to make sense of it, I've been doing some reading because I didn't get it. I didn't get why so many people were so invested emotionally in this woman who's a Supreme Court justice. Really, we should be asking why we need a Supreme Court anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But people are so invested in this. And so I read this, started rereading this book again, which is called The Black Bourgeoisie, which is my book recommendation for today, by the way. But there's one line in this book where the author, E. Franklin Frazier, who was a sociologist at Howard, says, essentially the Black bourgeoisie, so Black liberals, live in what he calls a land of make-believe. And so he says here, the single factor that has dominated the mental outlook of the Black bourgeoisie has been its obsession with the struggle for status. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. Like, so many Black middle-class liberal people just want the same power and status as their white cohorts. And that's just really what it amounts to. And I'm like, why? So you're using.
Is there a problem with that, though?
The problem is that you take this experience and you universalize it and say that essentially what's happening to her, KBJ, is somehow reflective of all the experiences of Black women in particular, but Black Americans more broadly. And there's no discussion at all of, and so I saw someone else tweet, they were like, you dealing with microaggressions is not as important as the masses of Black people who are suffering from like material deprivation. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. Like, you being in your office job, getting annoyed because a Karen comes to you and says something that you don't like is not the same as Black people who are suffering from racial capitalism. It's just not the same thing. And I just feel like there's a way that people use the KBJ situation to ventriloquize everything that Black people are supposedly going to, when there's no recognition that she's being appointed to a body that is undemocratic, that is unaccountable to anybody, really, and has an inordinate amount of power. What we really should be, and I get it, like, it's, yes, she was not dealt a fair situation. I'm willing to concede that. But I think that people need to stop casting their own frustrations onto her and just accept this for what it is. It's theater, and we need to have more important conversations than just being obsessed with this. Like, I don't get it.
I think the average person just doesn't see the bigger picture, like just the wider scope of things. Like, all we're seeing is like, this Black woman that is bringing diversity to the Supreme Court. I guess people just like to see the representation of it. Like, I don't think they think as deep about it. That's all.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I guess the thing that bothers me, not you say bothers, that's a strong word. The thing that concerns me is the way that we relate this to, I've seen so many comparisons of this to like her treatment to Black people who were enslaved. So you're going to compare the experience of an elite Black woman being elected to the most undemocratic body in this country to Black people who were suffering under a ridiculously oppressive regime of racial slavery. Like, we're going to make that comparison? Like, why do we have to universalize people's experiences that way? It's just like, yes, she should probably have received a hearing that at least talked about her jurisprudence and her legal background and all those other things, but that's not how these things work, because it's all about partisan theater. We know that. My whole thing about using these circumstances as like an illustration of racism is that it doesn't we be focused on the wrong shit. Like we don't need to be focusing all of our energies and attentions on that. Like there are other real structural issues that we could be more invested in, but we always cling to these instances because of the spectacle. But we collectively think that politics is a Marvel movie. We think there's good guys, we think they're bad guys, and we think this is all about making sure that the good guys win and that the bad guys are brought to heel. Like that's what we really think politics is. And I'm just like, that's not what's going on here. And until we can get out of this mindset of thinking about the world in terms of good and bad and evil and all of this other like cartoonish ways of thinking about politics, like we'll just be like caught in quicksand. Like we just have to move past that. And I just don't, if I see another meme talking about how KBJ reflects all of the strife that Black people in America face, I'm probably going to open this window and jump out of it because it's just, I can't.
Well, moving on, do you think there's a chance that she's gonna like pass on to the Supreme Court? Like, is she gonna get the votes?
She'll get it. I saw yesterday that Joe Manchin announced that he was gonna vote for her, and he was, he's the swing vote. So they'll have the 50 votes. Kamala will break the tiebreaker, so she'll be confirmed. I don't know when the vote will be. Probably within the next couple of weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah, next couple of weeks, I would think.
But why is it taking so long?
I mean, it might be Monday. I don't know. I'm just saying it'll be within the next couple of weeks. I just don't know when they've scheduled the vote or any of that stuff. So I haven't been following closely enough to know the schedule of all of that. But it should be fairly soon.
Well, on to a similar topic. What is going on with the Clarence Thomas drama? Like, I thought just, he was sick. I was crossing my fingers. But then, like, I hear there's some type of thing going on with his wife and text messages.
So apparently, first and foremost, she's one of those legitimate, I believe that the election was fraudulent and that Joe Biden is a illegitimate president. But she was apparently also texting people close to Trump about essentially January 6th in all of that. So there's some evidence that implies that she may have not necessarily orchestrated what happened, but was heavily in the know and was texting about it, which presents all kind of questions. I mean, a sitting Supreme Court justice's spouse texting about this, like, I don't know what the next steps might be, but that definitely seems something worthwhile to look into. And then people are like, well, that means Clarence Thomas is going to have to resign. I'm like,
hopefully.
He's not going to willingly resign. He might resign, but it won't be willingly. So I think it would require some degree of pressure, political pressure, to get him to do that. Now, will he? I guess remains to be seen.
I'm just wondering, how old is Clarence Thomas?
He's in his 70s. I want to say like 74, 73.
73.
Yeah, I figure that. I mean, he was super young when he got appointed, because he got appointed in 91, I believe it was. So he was really, really young when he got appointed.
Has he gone back to his post or whatever, or he's still like MIA?
I did see that he was out of the hospital, but I don't know if he's like what that means with his job, or if he's been like participating in court deliberations. I don't know any of that. His people close to him have been very mum about his status and whatnot. So, but
it would be great if we can like sub out Clarence Thomas and we could put another person on our team or something, like just to even out the judging panel.
That just goes to show you can't just depend just on narrow representation. I mean, we had a Black man and see how that turned out. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just enough to have somebody Black. You also have to know their politics and what they're about. See, that's what happens when you just focus so much on the representation and not the substance.
Well, hopefully Uncle Thomas will step down or go on to glory. But yeah, thank you for enlightening us on this whole KBJ Supreme Court nomination. Now, you said the book. What's the book you're recommending?
Yes. So the name of the book is called The Black Bourgeoisie. Came out in 1957 by a sociologist named E. Franklin Frazier. And the whole point of the book was to really do a sociological analysis or investigation of Black middle-class people. And he makes his case that Black middle-class people live in this land of make-believe where all they really care about is getting recognized by their white powerful counterparts, and they don't really care about the masses of Black people. They just care about their own upward mobility and whatever they can do to attain the same level of wealth and power as other affluent and middle class white people. Again, like I don't think there's anything, I'm not judging anybody. I just think sometimes we have to be honest about like what justice and what racial justice means to a lot of people. Just means making sure that Black people are as powerful as white people. I mean, that's not a view of the world I subscribe to, but a lot of people do. And I just think we need to be honest about that. And it's not a drag. I'm not dragging anybody, but yeah. So anyway, the book talks about that. And I think in light of the KBJ stuff, I think you can see how so many Black, liberal, middle-class people, their frustrations are projected onto KBJ because she was having to endure what they endure, which is, you know, white people downplaying their credentials and like their qualifications to attain power and so forth. And so again, it's not a drag, but I do think it's an interesting way of thinking about Black politics.
Okay, well, the book recommendation is going to be in the description below if you want to check it out. Thanks again, Jared. This time just been going by so fast. Where can they follow you, as always?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, JAYC Tiger Fan.
Yeah, and y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, as well as share if you're enjoying Poli-Side-Eye. We will see y'all in the next episode. Bye.